But then he has also said things like,
SEC, come from me. I'm in Romania. There ain't no SEC in Romania. We're scammers.
Right, so understandably, a lot of the news is about all of that. But at the same time, another aspect of the situation is the fact that this investigation in this video was coming. Because we knew that this video was going to drop after last week when Andrew tweeted a screenshot of an email CoffeeZilla sent him asking for comment on an upcoming story. You can pause the video to read all the questions. It's just several questions about his crypto habits. And in response, rather than Andrew answering the questions or ignoring it, he basically launched a hate campaign against Coffee. Right, of all the possible things, telling his followers to email him and call him gay. With Andrew then later posting a video saying that for every person who calls Coffee gay and dislikes his eventual investigation video, he will buy more of a coin he promotes called Daddy. And this is prior to uploading his investigation. Coffee put out a separate video calling Tate out.
Legit, I have hundreds of these emails, all freaking out, ironically, on behalf of an alpha male who's also freaking out about questions that he refuses to answer, about an investigation that none of them have seen, but they're planning to dislike in advance to own me and to prove to their daddy that they're gonna be, they're good little boys.
Right, and Coffee also addressed all of this in his investigation video as well.
Let me just see if I get the plan right here. The plan is dislike and call someone gay, so the alpha male you like buys daddy coins for you. You can almost smell the desperation. Get rich quick by hurling slurs at a journalist.
And as Coffee's videos were coming out, you would Tate tweeting, having the power to randomly pump any coin on the chart is super fun. And adding he wants to pump everyone's bags and give you all money. So all of this is you have many seriously doubting Tate's power these days. Because one, if you look at a lot of the Tate stories these days, or just even social media in general, a lot of Tate being in the news or in the news cycle is him getting ratio. And this is right now, if you use the return YouTube dislikes extension, it shows on CoffeeZilla's video, it has like 183,000 plus likes, but only 1,400 dislikes. You know, with all this, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? But then, is Elon Musk buying votes, and is he about to single-handedly swing the election? Because there's been a lot of confusion, debate, outrage, and dismissal of how big of a deal all of this is. And while you may or may not have heard all the details about what's going on here, the thing that probably got the most attention is when he made this announcement at a rally in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on Saturday.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
Within a couple of minutes, the first lucky winner was walking up on stage to accept a giant check. But then a nearly identical scene playing out the next day at a rally near Pittsburgh. And like Musk said, these people, they apparently signed that petition. And specifically, they signed a petition that says it's in support of the First and Second Amendment set up by Musk's very own Trump super PAC, which also Musk has already given $75 million to himself. But also, here's the thing, right? Not anyone can just sign up, or at least if they want that money. Because according to the website, this program is exclusively open to registered voters in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. You know, so the swing states, and they actually get paid just for signing up. In Pennsylvania, they get $100, and voters in other battleground states get $47 per referral. And very notably here, this petition was launched before some of these states' registration deadlines, including Pennsylvania's, which is today. But as far as why more money for Pennsylvania, it's because people are predicting that Pennsylvania might be the most important swing state this year. But then with all this, you have people saying, you know, this isn't about some petition, it's about getting people to vote, as well as making a mass mad dash to gather contact information to support last-minute campaigning. And while using petitions to collect data on potential voters is pretty normal, you have experts saying that everything else about this scheme may make it illegal. And that because federal law makes it a crime for anyone who, quote, pays or offers to pay or accepts payment either for registration to vote or for voting. It's a crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison. And in fact, you have people like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro saying that Musk's giveaway was deeply concerning and is something that law enforcement could take a look at. But one of the biggest questions at play here is whether or not Musk has really found a loophole. Because the experts, they're divided. You have folks like Brad Smith, former Republican chairman of the FEC, saying this is something of a gray area, but not that close to the line, arguing he's not paying them to register to vote, he's paying them to sign a petition, and he wants only people who are registered to vote to sign the petition, saying, so I think he comes out okay here. But then this is others say that conditioning the payouts on being a registered voter in a swing state, it at the very least shows Musk's real intentions, and at the most, it could be illegal. With Rick Hasson, for an example, an election law expert at UCLA, saying in a blog post that Musk's sweepstakes was clearly illegal vote buy, as well as then David Becker, a former DOJ official and founder of the Center for Election Innovation and Research, saying, this isn't a particularly close case. This is exactly what the statute was designed to criminalize. But of course, illegal or not, the damage or the impact or whatever you want to call it, it may be done already. With some also speculating here that Musk's banking on a Trump presidency to shield him from potential prosecution. But for now, we'll have to wait to see what happens from here. And in the meantime, do not forget to vote. I got my early voting out of the way over on Friday. Of course, early voting is underway in a number of states already. If you haven't already, highly recommend you go to vote.org. You can check your registration, register to vote, see what's on your ballot. It's also got this handy dandy section just underneath that where you can select your state. You just boom, click, and it gives you everything you need to know, including a link to find your polling place, as well as any and all information you might need to vote the way that you want, because each state can be different. And check in on your like-minded family and friends to make sure they do the same. Right after today's show, I'm gonna harass my parents with a smile because they're Florida voters. And in addition to the presidential race, there's important shit that's being voted on this year. But then, taking a quick break from the news, how many of you kicked off 2024 promising to finally turn that passion project into profit? Or launch a business, lucrative side hustle, or just, a little hobby that brings in some extra cash? For me, I'd been wanting to launch a book club for a long time now, and that procrastination recently ended thanks to my friends and the sponsor of today's show, Squarespace. Because y'all, in less than an hour, DeFranco's book club was born and it had a home. Because Squarespace has all the tools that you need for everything, including creating and selling content, courses, and products. Physical, digital, online, whatever. You just simply upload and customize your content with a powerful Fluid Engine editor and then add a paywall if you want, set the price, or keep that thing open. The true power with all this is the ease and the flexibility. Like built in already, you can charge a one-time fee, sell subscriptions, and if you need a starting point, they've got a ton of stunning professional templates with drag and drop editing that makes site design incredibly simple, no coding required. And all of this is, of course, Squarespace has been a trusted partner of the PDS for years, and I can honestly say it's a breeze. We even leverage Squarespace for our very own daily newsletter, The Daily Dip, where over 50,000 of you beautiful bastards keep up with our coverage in your inboxes, take part in daily polls, giveaways, and now you can even get PDS show notes with sources over there. So why don't you kickstart your own digital space today with a free trial at squarespace.com/Phil, or just scan the QR code on screen. And hey, don't forget to use code Phil for 10% off when you're ready to launch. That's squarespace.com/Phil. And then, in the world of politics right now, understandably, everyone's focused on the election, right? Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, the final 2 weeks of rallies, the final TikToks and photo ops, and finally the discourse about how effective and or staged those things are. But easy to forget, President Biden is still the president and his administration is still trying to do things. Which brings us to the news today that's very likely going to get overlooked because of all the noise, that the Biden administration just introduced a plan that would drastically increase access to contraceptives and other reproductive health care for millions and millions of Americans. With just this morning, the administration announcing it had proposed a new rule that would make over-the-counter, OTC family planning methods completely free for people with private health insurance. Where we're talking condoms, spermicides, and emergency contraception like Plan B, as well as the first ever over-the-counter birth control pill, O-pill, which the FDA approved just last year. And specifically, and a key thing, the proposal would require health insurers to cover these OTC family planning methods, which would absolutely be a major shift because while Obamacare mandates that most private insurance companies must cover contraception at no cost to the patient, that just applies to prescription birth control. And they currently are not required to pay for OTC alternatives. But also, this rule doesn't just impact OTC options, it also would expand the choices people would have for free prescription birth control. And it does this by requiring insurers to cover all approved drugs unless they have a therapeutic equivalent that's already being covered, which then makes a much wider selection of birth control pills and IUDs available at no cost. Right, and all of this coming amid complaints that people seeking certain kinds of birth control can face serious costs because insurers only need to cover one kind of a drug within each category of contraception. But of course, there are many different types of pills, IUDs, and other preventatives in each category. I really cannot emphasize how significant this new rule would be. According to the administration, it would significantly increase coverage of contraception without cost sharing for 52 million women of reproductive age with private health insurance. Which is why administration officials say that if this rule is finalized, it will represent the most significant expansion of contraception coverage under the Affordable Care Act since 2012. Though a much bigger deal here is the timing, because this comes as people have been struggling to access prescription contraceptives since Roe v. Wade was reversed and more than a dozen states banned almost all abortions, with reproductive health advocates saying that it is more important than ever to ensure that these tools are more easily available. Because unfortunately, as we've talked about before, these bans have made being pregnant actively dangerous for everyone, not just those seeking abortions. They've made emergency care harder to access and drastically increased maternal mortality rates in states with bans. The bans have also made it harder for people to access contraceptives. Right? And that because since Roe was overturned, health clinics in abortion ban states have been forced to close their doors. But those clinics, they didn't just provide access to abortions, they also provided birth control and preventative care, which is why it's now that much harder for women to get birth control prescriptions filled and prevent pregnancy in states that ban them from getting abortions and jeopardize their lives when they do get pregnant. For example, in the first year since Roe was overturned, Texas, which has a strict ban, they saw a nearly 28% decline in filled prescriptions for oral contraception. And then beyond all that, far-right conservatives have also been attempting to limit access to some forms of birth control even more by spreading misinformation about how different methods work, like falsely claiming they cause abortion. And even though polls have consistently found widespread bipartisan support for access to contraception, Republicans have repeatedly voted against measures that enshrine rights to contraception at both the federal and state levels, which is why this new proposal from the Biden administration is being widely viewed as an essential effort to safeguard access. Now, with that said, as far as what happens next, in order for this rule to be implemented, it first has to go through a 60-day comment period. Well, I can't take months or even years for federal agencies to respond to comments and issue a final version, key officials in the administration say it'll be possible to finalize this policy before the end of his term. Though, of course, there is this other little thing that's happening between then and now.